Hey girls, so Ruth and I decided it might be a really nice idea if we both shared with you how God has worked in our lives and how he made himself known to us.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I had my confirmation in 5th class because we were a tiny little village school, so 5th and 6th class made their confirmation together every 2 years. It's funny, I actually don't even really remember my confirmation that much at all, which isn't great. But I remember at the end of primary school, I was going to go to a completely different secondary school from all my friends. So I was a bit nervous because I didn't know anybody going into secondary school. I don't know, some of you might be in the same boat and it's not easy, like you can get very nervous. But at the same time, I was kind of like excited because I was like, this is a time for me to have a fresh start, a clean slate. And, you know, in a way, I didn't do it from a good point of view because I did it because I didn't want people to know the real me. I wanted to be the person that would be liked and, you know, that would be cool and stylish and fashionable and all these things, which I knew that my primary school friends knew that I wasn't. I remember going into secondary school, I became very good at pretending. I became very good at like wearing a mask almost, at being somebody who I really wasn't deep down. And just like around my friends, I'd act one way, and around the teachers, I'd act another way. And I would just kind of become the person who I needed to be liked.
Okay.
Which, I mean, I suppose nowadays, like with Instagram and things like that, we all know like we want to be liked and we want to get those likes on Instagram.
Absolutely.
We put up our best angle, we have the makeup on. But yeah, it took a while for me to learn that, you know, that actually wouldn't make me happy deep down.
And did you find when you were in secondary school, when you were putting out this pretend version of yourself, that the friends that you attracted didn't actually really get to know the true you and what was really actually important in your life?
Yeah, it's actually interesting. I was thinking back there about my friends in secondary school, especially kind of 1st to 3rd year, and I just realised, it hit me one day, that we weren't actually very close at all. Like, we'd always talk about superficial kind of things, just on the surface, like, I don't know, whatever we'd watched the week before, you know, just really superficial things. But yeah, I could honestly say that I don't think they knew me, which is kind of sad, I think.
It is, yeah. Especially when you spend so much time with these people, that it's great when you share the same interests and beliefs as other people. It's amazing how it can really make you truly happy as a person and have that joy of the spirit like we were speaking about. And with that, you actually inspire other people around you that maybe, like you were trying to pretend to be, you know, somebody that they weren't, and you know, sometimes it can inspire them to share their faith as well. And
it's interesting, it was in 5th year, I think, that I really kind of got to know God personally. So this priest and these 2 sisters came into my school in 5th year, and it was actually Father Patrick. You might have met him during the week, and 2 of the sisters from his community came into my school, and they were talking about some of the things that you've heard actually during the week. So about how God loves each one of us personally and individually, and he knows us so deeply and loves us all the way through. And I remember for the first time in my life that hit me. Like, I'm sure I've heard it before, I've heard it 100 times, but the Holy Spirit that day had prepared my heart to actually hear it. Like, I don't know if sometimes in class and stuff you're listening away and like, yeah, you're listening, but it's all going over your head and it's just bouncing straight back off. So this time I actually heard it. And I remember thinking, you know, if that's true, I didn't believe it straight away, but I was like, if that's true, like, that's amazing. If I am truly known and loved by God, who is so powerful that he created the whole world, that's actually amazing, you know?
It really is. And after you had that experience, what did you do if you kind of felt like God is really there? What was your next step after that visit from Father Patrick?
So my next step, I actually ended up going to a retreat that Christmas. And I remember we were all praying one evening, or we were in a big hall and everybody was praying. And I remember just being really honest with God. And I think one thing I've learned from that experience is that God wants us to be so honest with him. He doesn't want us to pretend to be all holy and deep down we're like, I don't know what's going on here. But he wants us to be completely straight with him and just be, if we're not sure if he's there, tell him, you know, if we're angry or annoyed about what's going on, or even at him for something that's happened, tell him, like, he can take it, he's really powerful.
Exactly.
So that was one thing that happened to me that night, was that I felt I could be really honest. So I said to God, I was like, God, I'm not really sure if you're there, but if you are, please show me, and show me that you love me. I just had a real honest moment. And then I just remember so, like, vividly feeling God's love just rush through me. I felt so loved in that moment, and it's kind of hard to put into words, but I just felt like, just like he was literally there and embracing me in his love. And I started bawling, crying, because it was very
such a joyful moment.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yeah, from that moment on, then I knew I wanted to get to know him more and to let him get to know me more.
And did you find then, Ruth, that you started joining different, like maybe meeting up with different people or linking into different groups that could help support your faith?
Yeah, so I actually, at that retreat, I met a lot of really good friends who were all into their faith as well, and I started trying to connect up with them.
Brilliant.
Just we'd have different retreats throughout the year together, and it was great to be able to have somebody to talk to about this thing that we were going through together, you know, discovering God and discovering our faith. But to be honest, I still found it hard to talk about it in school. I found it hard going in to like bring up God with my friends in school or things like that. But I noticed that, like, I think this was the gift of courage, because I noticed that I was able to start wearing a rosary beads around my wrist.
Wow.
And I remember in class sometimes we'd have different discussions, and even though I was scared, I still would have enough courage to say what I thought, to say what I believed about God, or different things like that. And it was interesting because I honestly thought that people wouldn't like it and wouldn't like me because of it, but I found that people actually respected me so much for being honest.
Of course, and the fact that you were so solid and you knew what you stood for, because sometimes, especially when we're in secondary school, it's very easy to follow the crowd and go with what the majority of people, you know, what their thoughts are. So that was definitely a sure sign of God working in you, that you were able to have that courage and to, you know, to share your beliefs and what you stood for with other people. And when you were wearing your rosary beads, would it ever draw comments from other people, or would anyone ever comment? Or
actually, interestingly, no. I thought it would. Like the first day, I remember the first day I put them on, I was like, right, this is it, preparing myself mentally for like the onslaught. But I don't think anybody even saw them, or if they did, they didn't comment. Like, in fairness, my friends in school were actually lovely people.
Yes, I know.
So, people really were so respectful and so kind about my faith. And what about you? Did you have any big moment like that yourself? Or?
Well, as I mentioned beforehand, in primary school, I really didn't know God. You know, I didn't have that encounter with him. But one thing that I had decided when I was in primary school was that I wanted to be a teacher. And that stayed with me all the way through secondary school. And it was the one thing that really drove me in life. I was very driven to, you know, to get the points I needed in college to become a teacher. And then when I graduated from teacher training college, I thought really I'd hit the jackpot. I had my teaching degree and I got a job in England, and I was going out with a guy over there, and I thought this was it. This was the meaning of happiness. This is what this really should have made me so happy. But yet after the year over there, I gave it my all, and you know, all through primary and secondary school, this was my goal. And yet when I got there, I realized that it didn't make me so happy. And when I returned from England, I was really unhappy, and there was actually a Youth 2000 retreat taking place soon afterwards. So I went there, and there was a healing service, and I really felt when the priest was blessing people with Jesus in the Eucharist, I really felt so moved, something in me that I said, there is really something more here, that this feeling, it was like something inside me had moved or had changed. But yet, like you said, Ruth, although I felt it wasn't enough I still needed to grow more in my faith. So shortly afterwards, I went to Medjugorje for the first time.
Okay.
And when I was over there, just like I said in our previous video.
Just in case somebody might not know,
Yeah.
what is Medjugorje exactly?
So Medjugorje is a place where Our Lady has appeared and is appearing to people since 1980.
Wow.
And she actually is still appearing there to this day. But when I went over there, the busyness I felt from my job and just my life in general, because it was so busy, I felt this amazing sense of peace. And I thought, wow, I need this to be a part of my life every single day.
Yeah.
So when I came back, I thankfully ended up getting a job in Ireland, but it ended up being very far away from my home, and I wasn't driving at the time. But the one thing was, where I ended up getting a house was walking distance to the church. So every day I could go to the church every single day.
Wow.
And I prayed the rosary. I learned how to pray the rosary. I did not know up until then how to properly, to say a full decade of the rosary.
Yeah.
And little by little, baby steps. God really just brought me full circle and showed me in all aspects of my life, even from the friends He's brought into my life, even to the clothes that I wear. God has just totally transformed everything, and the joy that I feel now it was what I was looking for from my job. But as we were saying earlier, these things, they change, and like that, happiness is a feeling and it comes and goes, whereas the joy I have in God is constant.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because I suppose it's like, then for me, like when I was younger in secondary school, I would try and put all these masks on, but I was never truly joyful or peaceful. I was always trying to please people and trying to fit in, and just really not happy with myself. But then as I got to know God more and more, He began to show me how much He loved me and who I really was. And just like you said, like that gave me that peace and that joy that I still have to this day, thank God.
That's brilliant, Ruth. And have you found prayer has really helped you sustain that life and I suppose lead you on in your faith?
Oh, definitely, 100%. I remember when that priest and those two sisters came into the school when I was in 5th year. One of the things the priest mentioned was, Father Patrick mentioned, I keep forgetting that you know him. One of the things he mentioned was that it was really good to pray a little, just something small before you went to bed every single day.
Yeah.
And he said that it was really important to do it every single day, like when you're training for sports or something like that. So I remember I started praying a decade of the rosary almost every single day. I remember some days I was just not able, but almost every single day. And I really tried to just work on that and build on that. And it's funny, I didn't have any huge big experience with that like I did at that retreat, but just like that I found a gradual change, and I found just that I was more at peace over time, and that I was just able to feel His direction in my life and able to feel Him, because I wasn't like you, I never knew what I wanted to do with my life when I was younger. But as I began to pray more and as I began to let God speak to me more, I just found that He just started pointing me in the right direction. And it wasn't like a clear voice or anything in my head, but it was just like little things would pop up and I would just feel at peace about a certain thing, and I'd follow it, and then it would lead to another thing and another thing. So yeah, prayer, oh my goodness, without that I think I would have lost the faith that I found that day at that retreat.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, Ruth, but for me with prayer, it meant a lot to me to realise that prayer is just speaking to Jesus. It's a conversation, like we're chatting here now.
Yeah.
And sometimes you may go in, maybe just a prayer space in your bedroom or in your home, or if you're going to mass, that it's just a conversation that you're chatting to God. Maybe you have a concern or somebody that you need to pray for, and maybe sometimes you might think, I've no intention, so I don't need to pray today. But it's good to remember that you can say a prayer in thanksgiving, maybe something went well, for you that day, or else, to say a prayer of petition if needs be. And what I found helpful is, even for the girls, even having a prayer dice at times, it's nice, and writing different prayers on each, part of the cube and rolling it, just to, begin, if they're taking baby steps, just to build up to where they are and then lead on, you know, even if it is just a Hail Mary or a decade of the Rosary, but to remember that prayer ultimately is talking, you know, to God.
Yeah, and letting him talk to us. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And just one more thing, I just thought of a story there that I heard on a retreat once, and it really struck me. So in this story there's a king and he's got a son and a daughter, so the prince and the princess, and you know they're royalty, so they get to have, you know, the princess has big dresses and the prince has like his horses and he can go out riding, and they've got the best food and the best bedrooms in the house, and you know it's all great, but also there's great responsibility on them. Like they have to represent the kingdom. So the princess can't just go out and like dress whatever way she wants and just act however she wants, because everybody knows she's the princess. So if she does, it reflects badly on the kingdom.
Oh, yes.
And the same with the prince, like he can't just go out and just act whatever way he wants and just be, you know, just rude and whatever. He has to act a certain way that represents the kingdom. And I just love this story because at our baptism we became children of God, who is actually a king, which makes us princesses, which I love. But which means that, of course, like God is going to dote on us and just give us all these beautiful things and gifts. But also it means that we have a responsibility because we represent him in a certain way. So when we say yes to God and when we start to build a relationship with God, we're saying yes to the responsibility of representing the kingdom in a way. So that means, you know, living out those fruits and like living from those gifts and acting with love and kindness and joy and peace and all of these things. But it's really like, it's all worth it because we get to be princesses.
That sounds like fun to me. I want to be a princess.
You are? Well, Taylor, it's been so great to chat to you.
And you too, Ruth.
Yeah.
And girls, we hope you enjoyed our session, and we will be praying for you now as you prepare for your confirmation day. Thanks so much for watching. God bless.
God bless.
Bye.
Bye.